Welcome to Extreme Talk, presented by GracePointe Healthcare. Go to GracePointeHealthcare.com, mention your appointment online, get $20 off your new patient office visit fee. GracePointe Healthcare, modern medicine the old-fashioned way. Also sponsored by Crumble Cookies, Iceberg Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, fueled by Fairlife Core Power Protein, and financially supported in part by First Horizon. Well, welcome to everyone watching or listening around the world. Spencer Thompson alongside James Shannon and Brendan Daniel. A little bit more rushed than we usually are for shows. Had a lot of things we had to get prepared for. A lot of action around the eight-man football scene for us to get through all of the bits and pieces, and we're here. Oh, sorry, James.
At least we figured that out earlier.
Yeah, of course.
I'm not on either. Oh, wait, I'm
Now
on.
you
There
are. Now you are.
Short a person because we just can't get people to quit bailing on us. No, I'm just kidding. Audrey had stuff going on, so yeah, a little rushed.
Yeah, a little bit rushed today.
Skeleton crew today.
But yeah, James will be running the tablet there on the side. You see it a
iPad.
little bit in the shot, but we'll make it work.
Always do.
Oh yeah, we'll always make it work. So.
We can make it work. Even when we go to a field that has no decent filming situation.
You made it work. It made it work this past weekend.
We can make it work. Shout out to Brennan and Junior for helping me set that up.
That thing was a hassle to make.
It was, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it'd be. It was pretty self-explanatory.
Well, it messed up my polo, so I had to just wear
That's
the
fair.
jacket. That's why I had to wear the jacket, Spencer. Just in case you were, like, sitting there on the side like, Brendan? I'm like, no, there's stuff on it, so I didn't want to be like, hey.
And then we were so rushed with it that we literally went to go do pregame. We're doing pregame, and they're lining up for the kickoff.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, and the original plan was for me to go up on the scaffolding. So I'm trying to help Audrey figure out the audio stuff. And no one's on the main cam. Brandon was like, I'll do it.
I went Action Jackson, just climbed up there and just did what I need to do.
Yeah, I fortunately I didn't have as much hassle as you guys did on Friday and Saturday.
It must be nice.
Yeah,
it must be.
No, it absolutely was. Now, granted, the production crew was in the games for Friday and Saturday. It was their first year, kind of. First time producer on Friday, and then second time producing any sports event on Saturday, because what they do on the production truck is they rotate people within, so each of them have an experience at different positions and everything. So they had that, and I had to go to radio play-by-play because the scoreboard had crashed, so they had that going on, and the games themselves are pretty good. MTSU rallied back.
I'm going to break the rules and interrupt you all show, just because apparently in this universe rules don't matter, and how things are supposed to be set don't matter. We'll get to it.
Could have been more subtle about that, James. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, well, not following your own rules could be a little more subtle too. But I mean, it is pretty subtle because literally, if we weren't here to report it, no one would know.
Yep.
Absolutely, no one would know.
Got to hold people accountable. Our job is not to tell you what to think; it's what to think about. As we recap Week 7 for the eight-man football world. We start off with the game in Tennessee that did not have any implications on the playoffs and was of eight-man football. Providence Christian on the road against the Christian Community School Colts. 38-30, the Colts got it done at May Flanders Field. And it's one of those contests where a special thank you to Christian Community for posting their stuff on Max Preps and getting everything up to speed and updated. Providence Christian, I'm sure they have their stats on Huddle somewhere. We don't have access to theirs, but
or film,
film or any of that. But I tell you what, James, it's I keep going back to this because it just shows more prevalently. Last year, Coach Ferguson, the South teams, if there's a time to beat us, it's now. Providence is staying close, a lot closer of a competition with the teams that they're playing against than they have in previous years. I mean, even with their South matchup against Lancaster, 25-20 loss, and then 38-30 loss. Yes, they came out with a loss at the end of the day, and a loss is a loss, and a win is a win. But for Coach Ferguson and company, great performance by Christian Community, especially against a well-established and well-structured team in the eight-man football scene.
Yeah, and I know I'm going to catch flack for this. CCS is down this year. They're struggling. Hey, Brandon, you want to get your camera?
No. Yeah.
Breaks the fourth wall as usual.
Again, short a person. CCS is down this year a little bit, And I know which camera I'm at.
You're looking at me.
it.
You're looking at me, not at
Because
the
I'm
camera.
talking where it's a conversation. Fine, I will address
Talk
the
with
camera.
the people.
Spencer doesn't exist.
Mhm.
Okay, so CCS is down this year. Providence has done a great job of, this year just growing so much more. I need the display as well, Brennan. Break the fourth wall.
Yeah.
They've done a great job of getting a lot better and growing the product, very much so. And you look at the box score. CCS up on Providence 16-6. Providence able to come back, outscore them in the second quarter. So it was a 24-18 game at the half. CCS with a touchdown in the third, and then Providence 2 touchdowns in the fourth, but just a little too late. Too little, too late. That would I don't know how the progression of the game went in terms of who scored when, but hypothetically, I'm guessing that would have tied the game at 30, and then CCS had that touchdown in the fourth quarter, made it 38-30. So a big win for CCS. Again, couldn't get any score updates. Couldn't watch the game even after the fact. I mean, I watched film this morning of a game that I'll talk about in a little bit, but just no way to watch it. So it's very frustrating. But to be, like Spencer said, CCS does have their stats on Max Prep. So just to highlight a couple guys, and I won't take them all, Brennan. You can talk about some of them. But Will Adams, in terms of rushing, over 100 yards rushing. Caden Poulin, the freshman CrossFit quarterback, 279 yards, passing yards, 4 touchdowns. Did throw 2 picks. And Providence has shown that their defense is a lot better. But Jake Gustafson. Yeah, Gustafson. How did you know that?
Because I pronounced his name before.
That's fair.
He was with last year, I think.
8 catches, 157 yards, 3 touchdowns. Very impressive outing for them. And Brennan, as far as defense, you had some dudes show up.
Absolutely. You had Gustafson had 3 solo tackles and 4 in total. You have Will Adams coming in with 5 and 3 tackles for loss. What a job there, boy.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Hudson Mortimer. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, because I wouldn't have got that. He did a good job with a total of 5 tackles. So the defense definitely did their work. They had no interceptions. Defense-wise, they had touchdowns-wise, they have like 5, unless that's offense. All right. But defense, they definitely did their jobs. They held them back. Providence, their offense, as we saw, is pretty good themselves, so there's no wonder they put numbers on the board as well.
And one thing I do want to highlight is CCS does not show any sacks. So potentially that offensive line for Providence protected that quarterback all night and just made it to where he had a clean pocket, could make the throws, or if it was a run-heavy game for them, they could run the ball as needed. So I obviously it looked like it was a great game, but a big win really for CCS and for Providence. You don't have time to sit around and be mad about that one. You've got to move on.
Special shout out, of course, to you look at the rest of the Christian community. I mean, Caden Poulin at a QBR of 115, 20 for 27 on his passing attempts, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. His longest pass was 31 yards. I mean, you touched on it a little bit. Will Adams, Brendan's favorite player on the Colts team, 21 carries for 104 yards, had a rushing touchdown on the night. And you mentioned Gustafson with 3 receiving touchdown, Asher Nix with 1. So Colts really put in work. I would love to see the statistics for Providence Christian on the weekend to highlight them and all, but it's just not up there on Max Preps.
I would just like be able to shout out who scored the touchdowns. But I do see for Christian community 9 penalties. 2 penalties a quarter on average, so it's not terrible. It depends on what kind of they weren't big penalties because it's only 9 penalties for 85 yards.
Yeah, but those, as you know, those penalties can add up.
Well, let's see, 9 penalties, 85 yards. I'm not awake enough to do the math. So average of 9 yards per penalty. So a couple 5 yards and a couple 15 yards. potentially.
Still hurts.
It does. It does come back to affect you, but big win for CCS.
Yeah, big win for them, especially going into the final stretch of 2 games they have before their bye week and then heading into the playoffs. But congratulations to the Christian Community School Colts. They get the victory at home, and their final home game of the regular season, a big one, in division against the Ezell Harding Christian School Eagles. And as for Providence Christian, their final game in division is on the road as they travel to Franklin to collide with the Franklin Christian Academy Falcons. And we'll get to it in bracketology, but what could be for the number 3 seed in the state playoffs. All right, let's move on to the 11-man games out of the teams that we cover. The Tennessee Heat 24, Monterey High School 48. And James, we talked about it out. There was that earlier 11-man game that Tennessee Heat had against a well-established 11-man team. And unfortunately for the Tennessee Heat, they just take the loss, literally scored a half of what Monterey's offense put up on the Tennessee Heat defense. And tough 2 losses in a row after losing first to Providence and then an 11-man losing to Monterey High School.
Well, and I did get a chance to talk to Coach Scott about the game and discuss it a little bit. Much better showing for the Heat in this one. And Monterey High School, he said, just a class act. Had their backups in by halftime, and obviously you could see only 3, a touchdown in the third quarter, nothing in the fourth. He able to score 3 in the second half, so make it a little bit closer game. But a great showing for the Heat. Monterey High School did not put stats in, but we will shout out the Tennessee Heat. Luke Matthews, the freshman quarterback, who's had a great season, 8 of 15, 211 yards, 3 touchdowns. He did throw 2 picks. In terms of rushing, weren't really able to get a whole lot going on the ground, but you had DeAndre Martinez with 89 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. So, for them, that's big. You did have some fumbles by Kyron Washington and Luke Matthews. But in terms of defense, Brennan, had some guys show up.
Which guys showed up on the defense for you?
I was about to say I don't have anything.
I got you. My bad. Okay.
I got him up here so I can shout him out too.
Wyatt Sutton had 7 total tackles and the tackle for loss. Only an 8th grader.
Oh yeah.
You had where's he at? Eli Fallbrush had a tackle for loss. Keandre Hatfield. I think it's Keandre. I know it's Hatfield. I should know this. Keandre Hatfield, 6 total tackles.
Yep.
And then you had Martinez with 5 tackles in terms of interceptions. And I know it looks like we're just reading it off, but it gives us a chance to shout out players and go, hey, I still got the camera on you there, Brendan. Martinez had an interception, and then Wyatt Sutton and Hatfield each had a fumble recovery. And then Luchtefeld just kept doing his thing with kickoffs. He averaged 43 yards a kickoff. So if you're kicking from – so it would have been a 100-yard field. So you're kicking for the 35. So 40 puts you at, 25. So average kickoff about the 25-20, somewhere in there. So, I mean, not a bomb, but, these usually the kicker's an 8-man used to kicking on the 80-yard field. So if you put that in context for an 80-yard field, 8-man, it's a kickoff down to the 10.
Right.
Yeah. If you're kicking from the 30, it's to the 10. So, I mean – you take it, take it for what it is, take it with a grain of salt. But excellent performance by the Heat, and all things considered, they, injury bug is still tearing them up, and it's unfortunate. But that's a team that coming up they could keep playing them. I don't know if they want to play Clarksville Academy again with everything that I heard happened that night, but Monterey High School would be one that you want to keep going with.
Yeah. So congratulations to Monterey High School on the win. Tennessee Heat have a lot of things that they can look forward to going through the rest of the season. They have a bye week, and then they have their final 11-man football game of the season where they host Cannon County. Shout out to Jonathan House, our colleague at MTSU, who covers Cannon County sports.
He is.
Yeah. So shout out to him. I'm sure he'll enjoy covering the Tennessee Heat for a little bit, even with the 11-man scene and all that. So shout out to him.
He won't if they upset him.
It's got two weeks until that happens, so maybe it'll. Who knows? But
actually, Spencer, I meant to mention that is not their next game.
They picked it. That's right. You keep forgetting to update the master schedule that we have
I
on here.
know.
That's what I referenced. So, who did Tennessee Heat have next week? Who
They
did pick
have,
up?
as of right now, from everything I've heard, and I just talked to Coach Scott earlier today, they have the Memphis Nighthawks. And for folks that might remember, 8-man program, of course, out of Memphis. Very successful 2013, 14, up until about 15, and then they went to 11-man. They did what several schools thought and go, oh, we're big time now. We can go 11-man. And have absolutely gotten smacked. The program has died down. They stayed alive a little bit last year with Shelby County schools not allowing, for some reason, allowing players to play the high school season. So a lot of them transferred and played for Memphis Nighthawks. But this year, lower numbers, but they are going to play the Tennessee Heat in an 8-man game in Mount Juliet Friday night. So Tennessee Heat could be getting another win right there.
Possible for them to get that extra win. All right, we get into next the other 11-man game that happened, and I just pulled up the statistics for this. Whew, I'm sure you're gonna be ready for this. The Southern Prep Fighting Rangers 61, Meadowview 0, and
you're not saying it right, Spence. The Fighting Rangers.
Oh, jeez, that's the first time he's ever said that to me all year. But all right, 61-0, and it starts with their senior quarterback Owen Wolf at the helm. QBR of 153.3, 10 completions, 14 attempts, 217 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Had a 71.4% completion rate.
We're just going to stay on the main cam today.
Yeah, we're just main cam's fine.
We're going to stay on that camera.
I had my steps today.
Main cam's fine.
I had my steps
you
today.
you got yours in. But it starts out with their star quarterback Owen Wolf in the incredible game he had. Ernest Moore, the incredible rushing game he had with 4 rushing touchdowns, 8 carries for 147 yards, and
4 tutties.
Even that their top receiver, Ernest Moore, only had 3 receptions, but for 100 yards.
5 total tutties.
Goodness. And then on the defensive side, James, just several tackles for loss and things. It's just Southern Prep did everything right, and Meadowview just had a tough time against Coach Roland Bell and company.
If you needed Southern Prep's roster, it's right here in the tackle section.
Literally.
Literally.
Everyone.
Yeah. And, of course, they put backups in. But, I mean, geez, Ernest Moore had 6 total with 3 tackles for loss. Fugate, Cole. Both Coles, really. The freshman, Caleb, and then the senior, Evan. Theo Rindler had 8 total tackles, tackle for loss. Just a phenomenal showing by them. And I tried to pick the upset special. I thought Meadowview might be able to pull it off. I didn't know quite about Southern Prep. Love Southern Prep, love Coach Bell. Thought I could pick the upset special. That was not the case, and I heard about it. I heard you on social media, okay? I saw the DMs. All right.
Shout out to the young 8th grader Dawson with 2 tackles and a tackle for loss.
Dylan Dawson, yeah.
So Ernest Moore on the day, all the rushing, 147 rushing yards, 100 receiving yards. He had, 6 tackles.
6 tackles.
And then he tacked a sack on there.
2 sacks for Ernest Moore.
2 sacks, rather.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's wild.
Yeah. He also had
recoveries.
And he had a pass defended as well. A lot of good stuff for Kevin Mason. Whew, good stuff.
I think I might know who their nominee for Player of the Week might
Yeah,
be.
the Crumble Cookie Player of the Week. I'm sure.
That might be the Player of the Week.
Yeah, it's more than like you got a lot of options on there. Or I mean, just like you mentioned, look at the tackles for the roster. Okay, which one do we go here with Player of the Week? But got a lot of options there. But congratulations to.
Well, if you're purely basing it off tackles, you got to go Theo Rindler with 8 total tackles. I know he only had 3 solo, but 5 assists. Now, in terms of solo tackles, you've got Caleb Cole with 5, so he led the team in solo.
Yeah, the freshman. It's a tough decision for Coach Bell and who he's going to nominate this week.
I know we don't cover Meadowview, but I've talked to several people in Alabama about it, and there's the AISA, which there's really not a Tennessee equivalent. Alabama has technically 4 conferences. They have the big one with all the main high schools, AISA, which is the mostly, I think it's all private schools, and they play 11-man, and then you have the CFA and the ACSC. So Meadowview plays AISA. They're like the lowest division, I believe, 1A. it's just that in terms of their roster, there's no reason they should be playing 8-man football. We talked about it, Spencer, yesterday. We were texting a little bit and saw a school that used to be 8-man playing 11-man. They had 39 on the roster.
Do you want to put a name to that school, or do you just want to?
I mean, it was Webb. You
Yeah.
know, it's Webb, but that's not really a part of the story. I'm just saying we talked about somebody, but we talked about Webb on Max Preps having 39 on the roster. Now I happen to know that some kids quit and they've had some issues there. They're 0-5, so that 11-man move is really working out for them. But they do have a turf field, so there you go. I mean, that's a win.
Was it only 4?
The evil turf monster.
I know. Well, Turf Monster has he doesn't go grass or he does.
What is it, only 4 or 5 wins since losing the MTAC championship?
4 wins in 3 years.
Since losing the MTAC championship in 2018.
4 wins in 3 years. And some of them were like they beat Grace, they beat the Heat. Yep. So it wasn't even impressive wins really. But you hate to see it. Hate to see it for those kids. But anyways, so on Max Preps it has them at 39 kids on the roster. Meadowview has 22. This is a school needs to look at coming to 8-man in Alabama, but I'm going to leave it there. Like I said, we don't cover them, but it's just something I wanted to touch on.
It's something to be interested to look forward to. Congratulations to Southern Prep on getting the shutout win against Meadowview. They get home for another 11-man game against Lafayette out of Georgia. Or Lafayette, one of those two.
It's probably Lafayette. Because we're in the South, like Tennessee, it's Lafayette.
Lafayette, yep. Yeah. They have an 11-man game on October 1st. All right, we get into Ezekiel Academy 53-6 against Success Unlimited Academy, and that game for them was at home, and Success Unlimited, Ezekiel.
No, who has the 11-man game next week? You said Southern Prep?
Yes, it says Lafayette from Georgia. It says on our master schedule notes that it's an 11-man game. So, all right. Well, Ezekiel Academy 53-6 against Success Unlimited Academy, and thanks to Ezekiel Academy for putting the statistics on Max Preps for us to highlight. Peyton Leach, 143.8 QBR, only 3 completions off of 5 pass attempts for 90 yards. Passing touchdown. His longest pass was 39. You look at it was more a rush-heavy game. They had Michael Richardson, 7 carries for 71 yards. You had Jakyle Sims, 76 rushing yards and only 3 carries. Richardson had 3 rushing touchdowns, 2 from Sims. But Leach had a rushing touchdown for himself. Receiving, you had Richardson with 39 receiving yards, Corey Murphy with 38 receiving yards and a reception touchdown. Ezekiel Academy, they took that tough, close loss against the Lighthouse Homeschool Warriors, and now they have some momentum coming up for Friday night's contest. But what a game by Ezekiel Academy!
Thanks for leaving some stats for us.
I left the defense for you.
I was letting him go on the roll.
I know, dude was just.
Previous years, James has said, I want you to go on more statistics.
I
go with the statistics. Way to leave stats for us.
I'm messing with you, Brett. And in terms of defense, though, and Success Unlimited rolled into this game. Of course, another school that we don't cover this year out of Alabama, but they rolled in 2-1 per the NHSA rankings. I really didn't think Ezekiel was going to struggle with this one. I predicted Ezekiel to win. I think you did too.
Yeah.
But in terms of defense, again, Ezekiel had dudes show up on defense.
Absolutely. You had Michael Richardson, even on the defensive side, had 8 tackles in total, and the tackles for loss, you can go ahead and put on 4 sacks for him. 4 sacks. That's not even
That's a lot of groceries.
Oh, that's the whole kitchen, my boy. That man was eating. And then, like, interceptions, you had one by Elijah Ward, but hey, that defense was on point. They were getting everything they needed.
Spence, I don't mean to keep going back to the Southern Prep Lafayette Christian game. The game detail says it's 8-man homecoming. So I'm just saying it might be 8-man.
Any other thoughts on the Ezekiel game, James?
Also want to give out to Peyton.
I'm just messing with you.
Little shout out to Peyton Patchell as well with the 6 tackles and tackle for loss as well.
You got Mac Mills who hit 5 out of 7. Yeah, Mac Mills 5 out of 7 on the PAT. So solid kicking game.
Oh yeah,
beautiful kicking game.
Oh yeah, great
We've
stuff.
actually seen some real good kickoffs.
Oh yeah, last few weeks has been great. Between Arrington and Evangel's kicker, Ezekiel's kicker, all those guys.
Freedom's kicker, Ogletree.
Yeah, Ogletree kicking for the Freedom Cowboys and everything, and especially with Freedom being a 2-point conversion team, at least in recent memory, for them to finally acquire a kicker, a good weapon for them. And
well, and their kickoffs were always onsides.
Yep.
Historically, I'm thinking back. I think it was always onsides.
Yep.
So it's awesome to see kickers really, and another team we don't cover, but I will give him a shout out. Andrew Hasley from FCA, very good kicker as well.
Yep.
We've seen him in the past few years, and I've seen a little bit of their stuff just studying schools that we do cover, and he has not lost a step at all in terms of kicking. So.
Yep, shout out to Andrew Hasley on that, and shout out to Ezekiel Academy getting the 53-6 win. They have momentum going into their big matchup that could make or break their chances of getting into the ACSC championship as they collide at home with the Evangel Christian School Lightning, a rematch of the national championship from 2020. Now we get into the games that actually affected playoff seedings from the teams we cover. As don't look at your fantasy team while we're on the show, James. That's the best advice I can give you. That's the best advice I can give you.
That struggle real.
Grace Baptist, and as far as we are aware, Zion Christian games do have an effect.
I'm losing.
Yeah.
I'm doubled up right now.
Sorry, James. As far as we are aware, any games that Zion Christian plays against the teams in the TSIAA South, those are affecting playoff standings. As far as we're aware, I mean, we don't know, but at least at this point, Zion has not won against any of the South teams through the season, so it doesn't have a huge effect because it's the same playing field. But as far as we're aware, it does have implications. But Grace Baptist 44, Zion Christian 0, and just
Max
another.
Again.
Max Preps is on some wild stuff.
Why is that? Why'd you say that?
If you try to click on the stats, it's going to can't show it or whatever.
No, I pulled up Zion Christian, and it's got them playing Summertown.
Says on 9/23,
last Thursday.
Yeah, it said it was a
so
forfeit.
I'm gonna have to actually look up Grace Baptist.
So what probably happened was that was one of their games they scheduled before they made the move back to 8-man. It's probably the case.
Max Preps is on some wild stuff, like that Snoop Dogg stuff.
Gonna have to report that score again. But tough loss for Coach Jeff Jordan and company. Grace Baptist just keeps rolling. They're now, what is that, 7-0? 6-0?
7.
Yeah, 7-0 because they played every week that we've been broadcasting. So 7-0. The move to 8-man football just looks more and more clear that it should have happened a long time ago.
I mean, it's. I hate to say I'm not. It's gonna sound bad. I hate to say that it's Ezel Harding 2.0 because this is Grace. They're a different team from Ezel Harding, but it does remind me a lot of that Ezel Harding team in 2019. The quarterback is extremely mobile and can slang that football. They have a solid run game, and that line just dominates. It literally reminds me of Ezel Harding a couple years ago. And Ezel Harding didn't struggle with anybody. I mean, they did lose to Evangel, and then to be fair, Grace beat Evangel. So there's a little bit of a difference there. But from the other teams that I've seen in this league, Grace is winning the title. I'm calling it.
Absolutely.
Grace is winning the title. There's nobody that's going to stop them. When you only put up 14 points in a game and you're supposed to be a dominant team, and if you know, you know. We'll talk about it in a second. But Grace is winning. Let's just go ahead and give them the title.
And to be honest, when you were giving out the scores and you told me Grace was only up by 14,
I know.
What was it, the first or second half? I was like, Zion must have figured it out. Something.
I thought
Zion
that too.
must have done something to figure it out, and then next thing you know, the points just came on. So I was like, okay, Grace found themselves.
It was only 8-0 at the end of the first quarter.
Oh, good news. There on Max Preps, there's a highlight video of Grace and Zion. It looks like at the start, Grace had a 9-yard touchdown pass from 2 to, I think that's 16 for Grace. I'm watching this highlight video, so.
16.
Yeah.
Well, Grace doesn't have a 16.
Okay, maybe is there a 26? Looks like it's a 6 on the end of the number there because I'm looking at the huddle. Maybe it's a. Yeah, it's hard to tell because the angle they have on this, but
so Grace was only up 8-0 at the end of the first quarter, and then And then they were up 14-0 with 6 minutes to go in the second, and then they put 2 more up before half, and then just kind of cruised the second half, scored a couple more. Zion not able to get on the board, but Grace just, man.
Just being Grace.
Yeah, it's Grace just being
wild.
Yeah, it's Grace just being Grace. They had a 34-yard passing touchdown. Canet is just on point.
So
He really is.
in the second round, because Grace is going to get the first round bye, in the second round, when Grace hosts somebody, right? Let's just plan on not going to Chattanooga because we already know we're going to see them in the championship. Let's not even worry about driving to Ottawa.
Is that going to be our break?
We're going to see them in Florida. I'm calling it now.
I think they're planning on going to Florida. Yep.
This is September 26th. So a full month and a half before. We will get Evangel and Grace in Florida. Speaking, okay, well, we'll get to Evangel in a second.
Well, regardless, Grace Baptist with a 7-0 start in A-Man football. Congratulations to them. They have their first bye week of the year. They get to.
Oh, so they're going to be 8-0.
They'll be 8-0. They have their first bye week before their final game of in-division matchups. They will be at Franklin Christian Academy, which that game could. We'll talk about it in bracketology on that one.
Did you see that screen pass?
I saw some of that on the highlight video on Max Preps. They got some good stuff.
Zion was so close to getting him, and then of course connect things.
Yep, just typical there. Well, Max Preps has a missing score there. Well, for Grace Baptist, congratulations to them before they have their matchup against FCA after the bye week.
There's no game on Max Preps.
And then for Zion Christian, you have to go to Grace's page. It has a highlight video there for Huddle.
Yeah.
And Zion Christian, they have their final matchup. Unless they pick up any other games before Division II, they have their final matchup at Lancaster Christian to start off October. Well, Max Preps does not have a score reported, but we've got a score to report for you. 22-6, South Haven Christian School gets the victory over Ezel Harding.
There's no score on Max Preps?
No. Not for South Haven at Ezel Harding. I'm looking at South Haven's page.
That's wild.
Yeah, it doesn't have
Max Preps is just wild.
Or maybe somebody's slacking.
one of the two. All right, this divisional matchup, no stats reported on there, unfortunately, nothing updated. But this was crucial for South Haven to win in terms of their playoffs chase because now they've played all their divisional matchups. They are 3-1, and we'll get more into it into bracketology. But South Haven needed this win after taking the tough loss to Christian Community on the road. Ezel Harding also needed this win to try and keep their hopes alive of getting into the state playoffs. And for Coach McGee and company. Tough to see them only put up one touchdown against the Patriots, especially with all of the factors they had going into it. So, for the South Haven Patriots, just another win, and there's a reason why they only have one loss on the year.
Yeah, but you love to see that South Haven rebounded.
Mm-hmm.
You after taking that loss to CCS, you love to see that the guys stepped up and did their jobs. Touchdowns for the Patriots coming from Sorto. Imagine that.
Of course.
Batson had 2 touchdown passes. He had a throw to Taylor, and he had a throw to, let's see. I'm trying to get to the other one. I don't have the other one. Yes, it was Batson to Royalty. Mm-hmm. So Batson 2 touchdown passes. Jaden Batson stepping in a quarterback after Andrew Crawley graduated. He's done a good job this year.
Yep.
Very, very impressed. And then for Ezel Harding, the touchdown coming from Josh Murdick. Didn't get the 2 points, so obviously, like I said, 22-6. How about this? Why I don't know that I told y'all this about the South Haven Ezel Harding game because I was getting the scoring updates. Shout out South Haven at scoring sends us scoring updates. And Ezel Harding, you can watch the game on Facebook. For home games, they have a broadcast, but live stream, whatever. So to end the game for South Haven, it didn't end the game, but it only left like a minute left on the clock. They ran a 14.5-minute, 23-play drive to we talk about controlling the pace in a game. They literally sat down with a plate at the Thanksgiving table, took them a scoop of time, like 3 scooping heaps of time, and just ate time. Went to town on it. Little ketchup, little salt, little pepper. 10 out of 10. They killed it.
His Italian side coming out there.
Oh, y'all didn't get that reference. Never mind.
They make
it's
it.
an old YouTube video.
Right, making references on that, but you're right about controlling the tempo. And again, for South Haven, they needed that win as their final in-division matchup. Easel Harding, tough loss for Coach McGee and company, and you wonder as well with all the factors that went on with the Eagles last week, from the referees not being at their homecoming game and all the rattled mentality, I guess, going from that. You have to wonder if that possibly had an effect on Easel Harding's performance.
It might have, but I mean, South Haven is a team. They've done it all year. The only game they really weren't able to do it was CCS, but they've controlled the pace of games, and that's something that a lot of teams haven't mastered yet. So that's something playing to the advantage of South Haven. Do I think they would beat a Grace? No.
I was about to say, you say that, but Grace masters it.
That's fair.
well,
That's
too.
fair. Grace does control the pace of the game very well.
Dangerous are the Golden Eagles, and for South Haven, they now have a waiting game to figure out where they will land in the TSIAA playoffs. We'll talk about that later, but congratulations to South Haven on getting the victory. On the Masters schedules, it says that they have 2 bye weeks.
They do. They
So-
have. South Haven is very. Why am I getting so many?
Yeah,
Okay.
a lot of people trying to talk to you right now.
CCS South Haven Easel Harding score is updated. I just submitted it.
All right, perfect. That's
Bam.
updated. But
Boom,
2
bow, that's how you fix that. Where was I going? Okay, so South Haven is very close with the church, the school and the church to do a lot of things together. The church has some stuff going on over the next 2 weeks, and so the school and sometimes the guys aren't able to practice. So about this time of year, 1st of October, they usually take a bye week. This year it's 2 bye weeks, and go ahead and focus on some other stuff. So
included with their fall break as well, because most of the schools take
fall
their fall break.
and then church stuff going on. So they're just going to step back for a couple weeks, let everything play out, and then end the season with a first-time ever matchup.
Yep, congratulations to South Haven. 2 bye weeks, and then they close the regular season out on the road against the Lancaster Christian Academy Knights. And as for Easel Harding, they're fighting for their playoff lives. Final matchup of being in division against the Christian Community School Colts.
You got to fight for your right to play in the playoffs.
Colts and Easel Harding Eagles on Friday to start out October. All right, we continue the matchup we were not at. Matchup that had a lot of drama and a lot of things that occurred in it. But at the end of the day, Lancaster in a clutch performance, the second time that they've had a clutch performance this season, this time only by 2 points instead of 5, where they got the victory against Providence. 16-14, Lancaster got the job done against Franklin Christian at home. And James, there's a lot of drama that happened in that game. A lot of things that built up to it. But at the end of the day, Coach Bragg bounced back. They knew they had to get the victory. Of course, for Lancaster, they had FCA the previous week after losing to Grace Baptist. They knew as a turnaround to try and get the right to host a playoff game, they needed to get this victory against Franklin Christian. And, Deuce Bragg and company, Devon Hargrove, guys like that, they just got the job done.
Well, and even dealing with a couple injuries and guys being banged up, guys not being able to finish the game due to those injuries, obviously T's and P's to them. But game was tied at 14, about 3 minutes left, and FCA went back in the end zone, lost the ball, fell on it, safety. That's how Lancaster won, 16-14. But Lancaster touchdown scored by Hargrove and Moore. I keep looking at that camera. I need to look at this camera. Touchdown scored by Hargrove and Moore, which those are names we've heard all season. 2 touchdown passes, so Deuce had 2 touchdown passes. But gutsy performance by Lancaster. And we'll get into a little bit more, something that happened at the game that we heard about there at the end of the show here. But just a big performance. And I talked a second ago when we were talking about Grace, I mentioned that there's nobody that, will challenge them. And after seeing this performance, I do not think that FCA will challenge Grace. I don't, because you saw how bad Grace just smacked Lancaster. And then Lancaster it was basically a tie game. Lancaster got a lucky break on defense and made the most of it. It's not bad for your defense and your team to get lucky breaks. It's whether or not you capitalize on them.
Right.
So they got a lucky break. They capitalized on it, made the most of it, and then Lancaster, of course, got the ball after the safety, couldn't make a lot happen. And then FCA had a chance to make a drive there at the end of the game. I believe 4 straight incomplete passes just ended the game. And so I don't see either one of the definitely Lancaster. They've already lost to Grace. I don't see FCA challenging Grace. The only caveat is it's at FCA, so that could play into it. But I don't see Grace losing.
It's a tough challenge there if Franklin Christian wants to get the job done there, but at least for Grace Christian, they get to rest for a week before that matchup happens. But for Lancaster, they got the victory done. Yeah, and their second to last in division matchup. So congratulations to Coach Bragg and company. They host Zion Christian to start out October before going on a bye week. And as for Franklin Christian, we don't cover them, so we won't talk about their next matchup. Even though I believe next week, of course, they do host the Providence Christian.
They play a game that we
yep, they
play a game against the team.
FCA hosts the Providence Christian Academy Lions for another divisional matchup, which that essentially could be for the 3 seed in the playoffs. All right, Thursday night, the only game that was going on in the southeast of 8-man football teams. We were there. First-time matchup between the Lighthouse Christian School Lions and the Tennessee School for the Deaf. And congratulations to Coach Bell on his first win as a head coach. Yep, just big clap there. And in the fashion he did, too. After the first quarter, 28-8. Second quarter, 14-0. Third quarter, 14-0. And then the fourth quarter, the Vikings tried to fight back 12-6. And it just ended up that Lighthouse got the victory done. And at home, too, in Antioch, great win in front of the fans and great way to start shifting the narrative to go to the winning culture perspective for the Lighthouse Christian School Lions.
Well, and I thought that, obviously both these teams coming into the night winless. TSD, they've had 2 rough games, South Haven and Carolina Wildcats. Thought they might be able to pull it off. Maybe they could come in, but dealing with their coach not being there, so they had a couple assistant coaches, which did a good job. But not having the head coach there does play a role. I don't think a team has won a game this year where their head coach is not there, and that's happened a couple times. So it does make a difference, and it does play into that. Another game where officials had the time wrong, but that's not to me. That's not an officials issue, and it's really not even a school issue. It's a league issue. The league needs to make sure these officials know when these games are happening. Even if it's a non-conference team, it's still a conference team that's the host school. These officials should know what time this game is. But
did we even know what time the game was supposed to start?
We did. I was told, and I dropped the ball on that. So I am man enough to look at the camera and say, I dropped the ball, and I put the wrong time for the game.
I got a man-up situation in bracketology that I'll talk about as well. You see, we're adults and able to admit when we are wrong. So,
but I will now. All things considered, Lighthouse played a phenomenal game.
Absolutely.
And I wanna. I'm trying to find the stats for that. I don't know that they're up.
No, they're not on max preps.
I do. Obviously, a whole lot of people scored for Lighthouse. Christian Sharp, Lancaster Christian, or Lighthouse Christian on their 4th quarterback. But Christian Sharp has just done a phenomenal job of carrying that. I mean, the dude's going to need like a chiropractor after each game after carrying the team on his back. But
Searcy didn't do as bad.
Yeah,
either.
Searcy was
Searcy had a good game.
Yeah.
But for TSD, for Tennessee School for the Deaf, they have a junior, Gage Conger.
Gage Conger, yeah.
Conger, right. His kickoff returns, he had 2 kickoff returns for a touchdown. And if I'm Lighthouse, and I love Coach Bell, I don't understand. Maybe they, I don't know what the thing was. I don't know. If it was me, here's how I'll word it. If it was me, I would, after that first kickoff return for a touchdown, because Lighthouse got the ball first, went down and scored. They kicked off to TSD. TSD Conger took the kick back for a touchdown. Just a quick, speedy, in and out of the player guy. After that point, it would have been, hey, we're not kicking deep to Conger anymore, because he torched them again. And then even on his kickoffs, you mentioned he averaged, 30 yards a kickoff return?
Yeah.
It's just wild. So and I think he scored the touchdown at the end of the game too.
Yeah.
There with time expiring to make it 62-20.
And the sad part is they had him on that one, but they just did arm tackling.
Yeah. So I mean, a huge shout out to Gage Conger. on the performance the other night, but yeah, I would not be kicking deep to that guy. If you're, I think TSD has Grace and Sacred Heart left. If you're Coach Ateka and Coach Blankenship, I'll tell him in a second, don't kick it deep to Gage Conger because he will torch you.
Yeah, absolutely will. Anything else that really impressed you, Brendan, from Thursday night?
Man, absolutely not. Congratulations, Mel, for getting your first win. I know you've been waiting on it. Congratulations to the 2 senior players of the game. You guys work your butt off.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
That's the first time we've had that, and it was a good thing, too, because it shows how proud Coach Bell was of both Sharp and Searcy.
For sure.
Because he mentioned, like, when he was walking over for the postgame before we went live, he said, I just can't choose between the two. We're like, that's fine. That's cool. Yeah, don't choose. We won't choose for you. That was great to honor both of us. Good thing you brought that second shirt too. We'll have to bring 2 shirts to each of the games now. Let's just hope. Let's just hope that in the future, coaches don't say, "Look, I got one offense, defense, special teams." Like, so we better have 4 shirts.
You know what? If they do that, go ahead and do that.
Yeah,
If you want to give your offense, defense, and special teams players some love, go ahead and do that.
We don't have enough samples. We'll just start bringing samples.
Bring like 20.
This weekend, I think we figured out the strawberry is the one the players don't like because both nights the players tried the strawberry.
Strawberry is actually my favorite.
Yeah, both players tried the strawberry shake. They didn't like the flavors.
It's like
as
drinking
much,
strawberry Nesquik, but it's got so many more like nutritional.
Credit to Searcy though. Credit to Searcy after it. He drank it. You could visually tell he didn't like it. It's like, how did it taste? It's like, no, man, it's good. It's good. he's still pushed through like a champ. So.
Right, but even if he didn't like the taste of it, it will still help his recovery after that game.
It's still give him some
and
protein.
The qualities that it has will still affect and help him.
Congratulations to Coach Bell on his first win as a head coach. The Lighthouse Christian School Lions get their first victory, have a chance to get a second victory as they collide on the road with the Franklin Classical School Knights. That could be for who is the higher seed in the Division II playoffs. Very much that's the way it's going to play out. And as for the Tennessee School for the Deaf Vikings, originally they were going to have 2 games afterwards, but had to cancel all their matchups against out-of-state opponents. 2 bye weeks before they go on the road to collide with the Grace Baptist Academy Golden Eagles on Thursday, October 15th. Final game of our recap that you guys were at. Sacred Heart of Jesus High School Knights collided with the Franklin Classical School Knights, and I was not there. You guys were there. You saw how it all played out, 44-14, as Sacred Heart gets the victory on the road. And I'll start with you, Brendan. This matchup, on paper, with Classical and the struggles they've had, Sacred Heart has been essentially a 500 team this year and made the choice to go independent this year, and it's paid off for them to this point. And for Classical, it's just, especially with all the factors going in, their first time at Jim Warren Park, I believe it was their senior night or homecoming.
Night.
It was senior night for them.
Mangrum and who was the other guy? There was somebody else who was a senior. It was Mangrum, and it was
I think it was number 7, wasn't it? The wideout.
It was one of them.
Yes,
the seniors
I think
there.
so. I think so.
Yeah,
but keep going. I'll find out. I want to find out.
But Sacred Heart just. Me and James asked this because the running game was pure, except for when number 8 he would carry the ball like a controller, you would have your keep it away from your sibling. Right. You're trying to play the game, as James said.
I heard James with a call on there, the B button mash. I heard that call when I was trying to get over to Jim Warren. Yeah.
Caleb Short.
Caleb Short,
the other senior. Yep.
Caleb Short. Okay. Yeah. No. It was just crazy, and then they brought out the big fella. What was his name?
Hang on.
Jamar Wolf.
Walker. I know his last name was Walker. Mm-hmm. By the way, Truel and Walker are both seniors.
Okay. See,
we weren't sure about that.
They didn't give us the roster with their grades.
With the grades for the most part. Max Preps had some grades.
Those two running backs.
It was Jamarius Walker.
Those 2 running backs took me back to Tennessee Titans when we had Chris Johnson and Lindell White.
100%.
Thunder and lightning, baby. You just had
Smash and dash.
Man, let me tell you. When that big guy came in, I literally just looked at the Franklin players. It's just like, you know what, guys, good luck. There's nothing you could do.
And I'll tell you what, Jake Keel and Austin Vox had a great night for Sacred Heart.
Yeah, absolutely.
Keel was just slinging the football all over the place, and Vox And DJ Johnson also on
but-
the line had a good night.
But see, we were also sitting there, even though the passing game was doing well, we were sitting there like, why aren't you running the ball?
It's like
There's no competition when you run the ball. Maybe coach was trying to be nice. Give Franklin a chance to come, it's senior night. Maybe he wants to give him some love, but
and you hated for Classical because it was 20-8.
yeah, it was still close.
And Classical got the ball at the end of the first half, had a chance to score, and then they were getting the ball after halftime. They were right there, and Mangrum did a great job at quarterback, and then they brought in Tanner Clark, and that's their future. I mean, I think he's a sophomore. That's their future at quarterback.
Do you think Mangrum probably talked to coach and was like, "Hey, you probably need to put the young guy in, and I'll play wideout"? Because that's what happened.
If I'm Isaiah the rest of the year, that's what I'm moving Mangrum to receiver.
Yeah, because he didn't do bad.
And I'm bringing Clark to quarterback.
Yeah, because Mangrum, he's a good big target for him to
he is.
dish out.
Mm-hmm.
And did they say Mangrum wanted to be an air traffic controller?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's great.
That's awesome.
That's great. All right.
A couple other guys for Classical. Of course, they were down Logan Frazier. I think that would have really, really made a difference because he is a playmaker. But a couple other guys, Landon Bingham, Caleb Manning, Austin Reynolds, and Will Britton all had a good night.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of receiving and running the ball. So
Will Britton's name was said multiple times.
Yeah, and Classical and Isaiah's done a great job of they would go with the 3-back set and then just pick who they wanted to snap it to.
Yeah.
They would either do that or they would just spread it out and just start throwing the ball all over the place. So
Which that helped a lot because
yeah, it
the
did.
size from Sacred Heart defensive-wise, the linemen, there was no way. There's no way they
if
could run it
Classical
out.
had some size this year and the injury bug did not hit him, because I think there were 3 or 4 guys that
it
weren't
looked like
suited
more than
up.
3 or 4.
But if those two things would go their way, much different team.
Yeah, absolutely. Because even though it looks like Sacred Heart did a great game, they still had a lot of penalties and a lot of fumbles happen, and it was looking bad at first, but then they got it together and they took it off, as you see.
Before we move on, the one thing I want to call James Shannon out on, you should not be comparing any players in high school football to Le'Veon Bell with spin moves. You did that on Friday night. I heard that as I was coming over. You're like, I said what I said. That spin move even better than Le'Veon Bell's. Don't do that again.
It was the big fella, too. It wasn't even
I'll give it to you. It was good, but Le'Veon Bell's a Super Bowl champion. You're comparing a high school running back to a Super Bowl
playing style.
But
His playing style, Spencer.
it's no.
I thought it was wrong, too. So.
Jeez.
Goodness. All right.
Shots fired from all fronts.
All right.
Just
Well,
kidding.
congratulations to the Franklin Classical School Knights on trying to get the victory on senior night, at least the performance they put up against Sacred Heart. Congratulations to Sacred Heart on the win. The number 25 ranked NHSA team, they collide next on the road against the Freedom Cowboys. That should be an interesting matchup. And as for Franklin Classical, as mentioned, they have their next home match against the Lighthouse Christian School Lions. All right. I believe it's time for us to hear the traditional ringing of the phone, James. We've got
I didn't turn the input on.
Oh, well. Yeah, all right. Time to hear
There was some feedback.
I'm still getting the feedback on it. Anyways, I think it's something with the cord being near some things. And then a little bit worse. A little bit worse on there. I think it's when it's near some electrical stuff. There we. I don't know. Maybe that helps. I don't know. No, I don't know. But time to bring back a coach on the show. Should be fun.
That's
fun.
a lot better.
That saved it. All right. We got another coach that we're bringing on the show. So hopefully he answers.
That would be awkward.
Yeah, that awkward no answer.
We are a little late.
A little bit late on the timing, but we'll see if we can get it done. There he is, Coach Jeremy Blankenship, the head coach for the Sacred Heart of Jesus High School Knights. And Coach, what a win on Friday night! How proud are you of your guys' performance against Franklin Classical on the road? Absolutely, Coach, and coming into this year, you guys had about this year. You've had your struggles against teams like South Haven and some other schools that you faced, but through it all, you've had some solid pieces on the offensive side. give you a chance here. What are some of the players that you've been most proud of during the season?
We not have levels. Do we have levels?
We got some stuff on here trying to work out the kinks here. Hold on a
But
second.
they can still hear Coach.
Believe so.
Okay. Sorry, Coach.
Yeah. All right. Well.
Okay. So, Coach, again, you guys go on the road next week. Little bit of a trip for you guys, but you guys have done it all year. Coming up to Franklin and then going to Springfield to play South Haven, and then you guys have traveled to Mississippi rather. What are you telling your guys to get through this upcoming away game? You know, one more week on the road against a tough opponent. What are you telling your guys going into Friday?
Looks like we're having audio issues on our end. Apologize for that, everyone. Work in progress with live television, live audio production. But of course,
But
thankful.
Coach can hear our questions.
Yeah, he can hear our questions. That's
Yeah.
the important thing. Coach, next weekend you got a tough matchup against the Freedom Cowboys with Coach Kyle Collins and company. You guys, the staple independent team around the Southeast that stayed that way ever since their since they initially started. What's the message you're giving to your guys going against Kyle Collins and company down in Huntsville?
I asked him that.
I was not paying attention.
All
I was not
right,
paying
all right.
attention. That's my.
Well,
All
Coach,
right.
Coach, let's run it back.
Let's run it back. Let's run it back. All right. Well, Coach, we always give an opportunity to each of our head coaches in case they got some things on their mind. Maybe it's whether film isn't exchanged, or maybe it's some schemes they think don't work. Let's go ahead and give you the opportunity for your coach's hot take, if you've got any. What was that, Coach?
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
sorry about that. Coach, who is your? Let's put it this way. Who's your college team? Okay, all right. Well, we feel the pain. I feel your pain. I turned the game off with 8 minutes left because it hurt. It literally, the Vols situation last night reminded me of Classical the night before, where right before halftime, they were right there and they could have made it happen, and then just couldn't get over that hump. And the opponent, and in y'all's case it was y'all, and it was Florida, and they just able to pull ahead and pull away, and man. That's tough.
You hate to see it.
Hey, how awesome is it to? Because a lot of coaches have to deal with this. I know Isaiah really doesn't have any, but how awesome is it to have the beef that you do with guys like Austin and DJ? I'm sure Jake appreciates it too.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Do you have a now? Of course, he's a senior and he's been the quarterback for a couple years now. Do you have a guy that you're working on for next year that could replace him?
All right,
Brandon,
Coach.
what you got?
Yeah, you got anything, Coach?
Well, what about your two running backs? We see they're both seniors. What's your plan for those backups? Those are hard guys to replace, man.
It's hard to replace thunder and lightning.
Yes.
Did you get levels? Do have another question, Coach. Of course, Freedom, tough game on the road. Then you guys come home and you've got Ezel Harding, who has had their struggles, and you've got Tennessee School for the Deaf, who's also struggled. So if you can pick up those two wins, and let's just prepare for the worst, hope for the best. Let's say Freedom doesn't go your way, you'll be sitting at 5-4. Do you try to make? And I don't know if they're planning on taking 4 teams or 8 teams. Do you try to make a run at going to Florida? Right, for sure. Right. Gotcha.
All right, Coach, we appreciate you taking the time out of your Sunday to come on the show, and we're looking forward to see how you guys perform throughout the rest of the season, and best of luck against the Freedom Cowboys on Friday.
Appreciate you, Coach.
Thank you, Coach. That was Coach Jeremy Blankenship of the Sacred Heart of Jesus High School Knights. Good interview. Great, one of the great coaches to talk to as well. You could tell he's focused on just like that question you asked about the two running backs in place. He's like, honestly, we're just trying to ride the high.
You just never know when you have a great running back core like that, and then you have to look and be like, oh, wait, we have to replace these guys. It's going to be tough.
But the good news, man, I cannot believe that Johnson was a freshman.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
And then Vaux, he said, was a sophomore.
Mm-hmm.
Man. And I mean, he's still got them for multiple years. So really, technically, with that pairing and whoever else they put on the line, you could put whoever you want back there at running back and make them a project, and you're going to have great run blocking with those two.
True.
So, I mean, you never know.
Yeah, you
never know.
You never know. I just find it interesting as well. The shared companionship. You mentioned which team he's with the Vols, and how you compared it to Franklin Classical.
It literally works. It's the exact same comparison. I was watching the Vols with my boy last night. He's sitting in my lap. We had our hats on. We're watching the game, celebrating his birthday, and it was actually really cool because we put him to bed. He comes back out and he goes, hey, can I watch football? Because he's in flag football. He's like, can I watch football with you? I was like, yeah. I was like, red and orange and white team. That's Daddy's favorite team. So we're sitting there, and then he crashes within 5 minutes. So thank you, Vols, for putting my son to sleep.
Fun stuff there. All right.
He would have fallen asleep anyways.
All right. Time for the next part of the show, bracketology, as we get into, this is the final weekend of September. We get into the first weekend of October. You two have already seen the bracket already. Nobody else has seen the updated bracket, so here it is on screen, the updated, and you got it on the monitors. If you guys want to reference it as well. Same thing.
We'll go monitor.
Yeah.
That is the updated bracket for the Tennessee State Independent Athletic Association. All right, hold on. I'm going to take this off the screen real quick. I got it wrong. I apologize. I misread the bylaws of the TSIAA. They did not remove the tiebreaker for head-to-head competition. They resectioned it. And that's where I got confused in there because it just said playoff seeding, and then I did not notice that they had another section of tiebreakers. So, as an adult, I apologize. I got it wrong. I screwed up. Hopefully, some other people around the league can do that at some point or another. But I screwed up. So, bracket back on screen. All right. If the season were to end today, so South Haven has played all of their division games, and we mentioned it earlier, alluded to it. They're in a waiting game right now because the rest of the divisional matchups in the North have to play out. So the Patriots of South Haven are in the number 1 seed just because Christian Community has 2 more games that they have to play, including Friday night's matchup against Ezel Harding and then their final matchup of the regular season colliding at Lighthouse Christian School on October 8th. So Christian Community holds that 2 seed at 2-0. Number 3 seed right now is Ezel Harding just because of 1 win and 1 loss. So Ezel Harding playing for their playoff lives if they can get the victory against Christian Community on Friday. And we'll get into this a little bit more of why that's the case. Division 2 right now, it is a tie between Lighthouse Christian School and Franklin Classical at 0-2. In the South, Grace Baptist controlling their own destiny. They got their matchup against Franklin Christian next week. That will gridiron lock them to be the number 1 seed. As Franklin Christian is 1-1 if they won 2 more games. There is the potential of a 3-way coin flip by tiebreakers because it's still only 3 tiebreakers on that scenario. Lancaster Christian at 2-1 in a much-needed victory against the Franklin Christian Academy Falcons. They control their destiny in terms of having a home playoff game, and this would be the second year out of the 3 years that the 6-team playoff has existed that Lancaster would host a game in the first round if that holds true. And then the 3rd seed right now is Franklin Christian at 1-1, but Providence Christian at 1-2. If they get that victory next week, they could potentially hold the tiebreaker depending on how Franklin Christian performs. So if Providence gets the win, if Franklin Christian loses to Providence and then they lose to their next opponent of Grace Baptist, they would be 1-3 and in the Division II playoffs.
And you said Providence, their only division game left is
Franklin
FCA.
Christian. Yep.
So okay. Yeah, that'll happen.
Yeah, so they
Providence is going to beat FCA, and then FCA is not going to be able to hang with Grace, and then Providence will have the 3 seed, and FCA will play in the Division II.
Let's hope that plays out for your preseason predictions or anything, but
well, that's how I have.
Yeah, but at least as it is right now, Providence is the higher seed in Division II, and Zion Christian. We have not gotten any official answer from the league of why Zion Christian is not eligible for Division I, but they're only eligible for Division II. We've been waiting on the specific wording.
We have only been told that it has been communicated to their athletic director.
The only other information or caveat of information we've been told is that Zion absorbed Riverside Christian's schedule. They did not have their own schedule back from the scheduling email in March,
right.
But just because of them going out and then going back in, that's the only partial reasoning we've been given, but still waiting on an exact answer from the TSIAA as to why Zion Christian is not eligible for Division I. The word, at least from what I've been told, is that it's because of a homeschool player situation, maybe not getting approval or some situation on that. That's what I've been told, but it has not been confirmed.
If that's the case,
if that's the case, then it would make sense. But still no confirmation, no responses to phone calls or texts from the powers that be. Here's the situation with the TSIAA. What I have been told, and this is not confirmed, I'm trying to get it confirmed right now, but what I have been told is that the matchup between Ezel Harding and Franklin Classical is not going to be rescheduled. What I've been told is that Franklin Classical has chosen to forfeit. I'm waiting on confirmation for this, so it is not official. But what I have been told is that Franklin Classical has chosen to forfeit that contest against Ezel Harding because they can't reschedule it. I believe additionally because of injury, and Franklin Classical is in essence honoring the 1/2 scrimmage they had against Ezel Harding, a 36-0 victory for the Eagles. So if that is the case, That is why I'm saying Ezel Harding is 1-1 in division, because I have not gotten confirmation from the league. But there's one of two things that have to happen. That game between Ezel Harding and Classical has to be rescheduled, and either the Freedom Cowboys lose out on a game where they're set to travel to Classical on October 8th, or Sacred Heart has to lose a game to Ezel Harding, where they would host that home game on October 15th.
Which would actually bid well for Classical, because I don't know how they're going to hold up against Freedom. So
it could
they could not have to play Freedom,
and
play
then replay
Ezel Harding. And again, I mentioned this last week. I know they played a 1-half scrimmage, and Ezel Harding had more scores. I'm not going to say they won, whatever. They had more scores. That was a half played without officials. So I understand you had assistant coaches spotting the ball and look, but you did not have officials there. There could have been 10 penalties.
Yep.
And I haven't watched the entire half. But there could have been 10 penalties in that game that would have affected, just hypothetically, Ezel Harding could have set them back, could have taken some of those scores off the board. And I trust the coaches and assistant coaches to see, if there's pass interference on a touchdown or something, offensive pass interference, callback, or a hold or something to bring it back. But I'm just saying that game, to me, in no way reflects how an actual game between those two would go, especially not after seeing how Classical could have performed against Sacred Heart the other night. I think if you leave Tanner Clark in there for an entire game and leave Mangrum at receiver and play like you did Friday night in that little stretch, I'm just saying it could be a good game.
Here's the other factor that comes into this as well, and it's a big decision on the TSIAA's part for this. If Ezel Harding is given the forfeit win, they sit at 2-1. If Ezel Harding beats Christian Community on Friday, which with the way Ezel Harding is played, it is possible. Now, Christian Community just has to get the job done. But if Ezel Harding gets the victory against Christian Community, and if Christian Community beats Lighthouse, Ezel Harding is at 3-1, Christian Community is at 3-1, and South Haven is at 3-1. You have South Haven, Christian Community beating South Haven beating Ezel Harding, and Ezel Harding beating Christian Community. Three-way coin toss, just like in 2017 with the seeding. The difference is with that three-way tie, no one's getting sent to a bowl game like St. Andrew Swanee was in 2017.
You're just getting sent. My God.
You're leaving it up to a coin flip.
Game.
Yeah, you're losing the home game to a coin flip. So that's the big factor that comes in here. Now, granted, Christian Community, all they have to do is get the job done, and then they clinch the number 1 seed because they have the tiebreaker, even if they lose to Lighthouse the following week.
Lighthouse could play spoiler.
They could.
They could.
They absolutely could. And if Lighthouse that's the other thing. Christian Community still they have to win out their divisional games if they beat Ezel Harding, they clinch the number 1 seed, and then Lighthouse can do a spoiler. We saw that in 2019. Final week of the regular season, or second to last week of the regular season, where Lighthouse beat Christian Community in that divisional matchup. It didn't matter because Lighthouse was out of the playoffs anyway, but it at least had a factor in there. But that's where the factor comes in, and that's why we're wanting to get answers sooner than later on the Ezel Harding Classical game, because Here's what it comes down to. Okay, you guys have seen the bracket already. That's what it's looking like. Number 1 seeds at the season or to end today. So we get back to our faces, and for James to go into rant mode. But here's what it comes down to. You're taking it off of the field again for tiebreakers, as we've been saying over and over and over. This tiebreaker needs to be fixed, and nobody seems to fix it. But more importantly, you've got a situation where with Ezel Harding and Classical, per the bylaws of the TSIAA, if the game cannot be played, it is a forfeit that is dealt to the home team. So by the rule of the TSIAA bylaws, Ezel Harding should be dealt the forfeit, and Classical should have that win in division.
And the reasoning behind why the game wasn't played as an actual game has nothing to do with Franklin Classical.
Yep.
It is a dropped ball on the part of Ezel Harding and or the league. And so now Classical is going to get punished for that. Hypothetically, if everything's confirmed and comes through.
Yep.
Just, I mean,
Waiting on confirmation.
Why have bylaws? Why have rules?
That's a good question.
That's
to ask.
one thing from the outside looking in. There was really any conference. I haven't heard these kind of issues with.
Yep.
Just it's wild.
Yeah, it's. I think.
Hang on.
I think part of the reason you can't see it off camera, banging his head against the wall. There you go. There it is. You can't. I think that's part of the reason the TSIAA is shooting themselves in the foot, or specifically those in the executive and assistant executive director. That's why they're shooting themselves in the foot. Is that they're not communicating publicly. They're keeping these things behind closed doors, and there are times where they attribute it to you need to talk to your athletic director, but sometimes the athletic director doesn't even know what's going on. So I think that's part of the situation of both of the ones in power are shooting themselves in the foot here, is they're not communicating up front and honestly with themselves and others. Or maybe they are among them two and just not communicating. But the problem we have right now is that the first question, what's the situation with the Ezel Harding Classical game? Is it a forfeit? Who's the forfeit dealt to? Is it rescheduled? When is that game going to be rescheduled? That's number one.
Is Classical Zion going to get rescheduled? I know it's not a divisional game, but someone asked about Classical Zion. No update on rescheduling it.
Yeah.
I know it's not a division game, but still.
I believe that's another thing
Does
I
it
have to
count as
confirm.
a forfeit or just doesn't happen? I mean,
But in that case, who would get the forfeit?
Yeah, and that's the question.
Now, to be fair, if Classical does end up, getting the short end of the straw, the short straw on this, we could get a Zion Classical game.
Now, granted, Zion Classical, that doesn't affect any playoff seedings because it's interdivisional, so it doesn't have any effect on that.
But is it the cross-divisional game?
There is no cross-divisional game tiebreaker in there, unless
okay.
if you look at the bylaws.
Then why would
I read up on that. There's no tiebreaker on there for no cross-divisional matchup.
So on Max Preps, where it has Christian Community Providence, and then Christian Community Providence, it says cross-divisional game on there. So what role does that play?
Well, they are cross-divisional, yes, because of North and South, but it doesn't affect playoff standings. Yeah, because it's. I made sure to fully read the bylaws to make sure I'm up on this. It's overall in-division record, wins and losses, head-to-head, then coin toss, as it's been since 2017. They haven't changed anything about it. So that's what the latest is on that. But in terms of Zion Classical, I believe they're not going to reschedule that, is what I heard, just because they've got matchups that are not aligned, and it's just not. It's just at least the reasoning I heard is that because of it being canceled and weather delay and all that, because of the games they have scheduled, they just decided to. They could reschedule their game for October 15th. Looking at it now, Zion and Classical do have bye weeks on those weeks, so if they wanted to
more
reschedule,
than likely have like fall break or something.
So. Well, no, fall break is October 8th for most of the schools, because most of them have. Maybe that is their rescheduled fall break. I'm not sure, but
it may be.
No, but that is the question. The question that has to be asked here is, what's the status of Ezel Harding and Classical? Is it a forfeit? Who's the forfeit dealt to? And will it be rescheduled? If so, what day is it on? Because that affects. But let's go back to again, three-way coin toss for the seeding in the North. Oh, but imagine if this were still the 4-team playoff system, then one team has to get booted out of the playoffs on that.
It'd be Swanee all over.
Yeah, it'd be Swanee. And then maybe
Swanee.
yeah. Maybe 3 years later they end up shutting down football because they've lost motivation to go. I guarantee you, if Swanee was in those playoffs, they would have been competitive.
They would still have a program right now.
Could have won a state championship.
They would have won the state that year.
You think they were
100%?
Because they would have. Well, realistically, in your mind, which seed do you give to Swanee? Swanee on that 1, 2, or 3. That was when FCA was. There's Webb was 1, FCA was 2, and then Swanee was 3 on the coin flip. But who do you give?
CCS and South Haven.
Swanee lost to FCA, so I would say 2. I'd say they'd be traveling over to Christian Community because Franklin Christian on the tiebreakers. I'd say that. Those are just my thoughts going back to 2017.
We are down a bunny trail, but
yep, we'll get to the ACSC playoff standings in just a few seconds. But
a I mean, TSIAA is a real conference, but ACSC, very legitimate commissioner that I had a chance to have a good phone conversation with, good hour and a half conversation with.
Yeah.
And, you know, yeah.
Imagine actually being able to have those conversations.
Conference that follows their bylaws.
Mm-hmm.
The board is made up of all athletic directors.
Yep.
So
All
from all
athletic
the schools.
All of the member
So
schools.
all the schools have a, because what we're trying to work with them on a situation with their championship, and the commissioner, they call him the commissioner there. He said, well, I'll have to communicate with the ADs and the coaches and and we'll talk through it. I said, hey, work your process, due process, absolutely.
Yep. Exactly.
So that year you mentioned Swanee. So Swanee beat Webb 26-13 and lost to FCA 61-44. So 17, they lost by 17, beat Webb by 13. So I would give them the 2 seed.
Yep.
They would have played CCS that year, and they didn't play them all year. Yeah, I still say Swanee wins.
Even with the hypothermia conditions and that semifinal and everything.
I still say Swanee wins the title that year.
Swanee wins that, and they would have faced off.
That was like Dustin Stinsby.
Now, you have to
Jalen
think of the other
Tillman.
thing. That would have been FCA number 1 seed hosting South Haven. You think it'd be FCA Swanee in that championship, or
FCA still ended up hosting South?
No, they traveled
Webb,
to CCS.
South Haven.
It was Webb South Haven. Yeah, so that's what I'm wondering about this.
That FCA was Elijah Jones, Shindell, Hayden Weeks.
Zane
So
Quibido, Graham
FCA
Harrison.
would have beat.
They would have faced off against South Haven.
So FCA would have beat South Haven that year.
So it would have been FCA and Swanee in the championship. Who do you give? Who do you give?
Hang on.
And
So
then
Swanee. So they beat Swanee 61-44. That was at Swanee. Now FCA did whoop Webb. The second time around, 50. Well, of course, but
that was the consolation,
the consolation game. Webb had
no interest in being there. Yeah.
So they beat them 62, but then they lost to FCA. Had lost to Webb 33-30. Yeah, we haven't Swanee the title that year. But anyways, back to the future.
Right now, potential for a 3-way coin toss to force a team in the South, a team in the North to travel on the road. And at least in terms of the South, Grace controls their own destiny for the number 1 seed. That number 2 seed is going to – number 2 and 3 seed is getting interesting as we head into October. So so one last look for a few seconds. That's your bracket for the TSIAA as it stands today. Next week, it is going to change a significant amount with matchups like Christian Community and Ezel Harding. It'll change with Classical and the Lighthouse, but potentially, divisional matchup. That's in terms of Division II. Lancaster Zion might affect it. Providence Franklin Christian, those will affect it. So a lot of changes to go down for it, that one. Okay.
Do you have the NHSA rankings?
I got them pulled
loaded?
up.
Can
I
you
got
put them
them.
on OBS
So
that folks can see them?
I'd have to get it on the stuff. It's not going to look good if I put it on there because of it being a rectangular view. But
that's fair.
All right. ACSC.
Step away just for a second.
ACSC. The Evangel Christian School Lightning are 2-0 right now, so they are technically the number 1 seed for the ACSC. Lighthouse Homeschool Warriors 2-1, and at least out of the teams we cover, the Ezekiel Academy Knights are 1-1. Big competition coming up on Friday between the Ezekiel Academy Knights and the Evangel Christian School Lightning. That could essentially make or break if Ezekiel goes into the state championship or not, and that force 3 teams to be 2-1, and then you go by point differential on their various situations and such. So right now it would be Evangel and the Lighthouse Homeschool Warriors in the state championship. And from what we've seen, Brendan, I mean, Evangel, you put them in the state championship with the way that they've been playing the last several weeks, more than likely they're going to claim back that state championship.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's no way that anybody can really hold them back besides Grace. So that's what we want to see. We want to see that rematch because that game went well, and I think it'd be a fair matchup again just to get a little revenge for Evangel maybe if they can beat Grace. If they can do it. I doubt it, but we'll see.
Well, we'll see, and at least for the Lighthouse Homeschool Warriors, they 2-1. They're 2-1 right now. They had that loss, of course, to Evangel, so that's the tie-breaking scenario there, and it goes by point differential if it goes from there. But for Ezekiel Academy, this is one of those situations where they have to get this victory on Friday. They have to get it done. It's very much an interesting situation in that, as James is making his way back around. I know he will go immediately back to it if I don't get his opinions in. So, James Shannon, Evangel Lightning 2-0 in conference. Lighthouse Homeschool Warriors 2-1. Ezekiel 1-1. Ezekiel has to get this victory against Evangel to get his shot to get into the state championship.
Absolutely. Porcelain has been watered. So East Central, we don't cover them. You don't get it? Okay. East Central.
I get it now. But
Sits at 1-1. They still have Evangel and Lighthouse Homeschool coming up. They could end up at 2-2. You have you mentioned Ezekiel and Evangel. That's a big one. Ezekiel also has Southern Christian, so they could be 2-2, and then the tiebreaker would go to Ezekiel. Lighthouse Homeschool has East Central coming up. Mentioned that. So if they lose, they could be 2-2. So Ezekiel. So pretty much right now, Evangel. It's pretty much going to be Evangel Ezekiel right now.
Mm-hmm.
Is my thoughts. Lighthouse Homeschool still has a chance. East Central still has a chance. But it would take Southern Christian upsetting Ezekiel. Or East Central upsetting Evangel. Because if East Central upsets Evangel, love you, East Central. Love you, Coach. Great guy. So hypothetically, right now, it's probably going to be Ezekiel and Evangel. I can't wait till they go to a 14 playoff.
Yeah, that'll be even more
year.
interesting.
After my hour-and-a-half conversation with their commissioner the other day, you are wrong.
Yeah,
what someone says.
Yeah, someone just says you are wrong. I'm wondering what we're wrong on. I'm wondering what we're wrong on. I was interested in that too. But
I'm very interested. What are we wrong on?
As it stands right now, the Evangel Christian School Lightning would be the number 1 seed, so they would host the state championship, and they would host the Lighthouse Homeschool Warriors, but still a few more in-conference matchups for them to host. So, all right, that's your bracketology. We now get into the, I want to say, extended bracketology, maybe, something like that.
Before we get into that,
what you got?
I do want to bring up a game that happened on Friday night. Two teams that we currently don't cover, but I would love to. I'd love to expand Alabama and cover these two. Tabernacle Christian and Tuscaloosa Christian. They play in the CFA. That Russell Christian, Evangel Montgomery, and there's another school in there that's having a good year. But they had a 44-42 double overtime game Friday night between Tuscaloosa and Tabernacle. So pretty exciting game there. That would have been a fun one to watch.
Would have been a fun one to watch for sure.
And Tabernacle sits at 5-1 in that conference. And they play Russell coming up. Russell Christian is currently 5-0. And I mention this because it plays into the NHSA standings.
Mm-hmm.
Because Russell, the last couple of years, has decided to not go to Florida. Well, like I said, Russell sits at 5-0, but coming up Friday night, they play Tabernacle. And it is at Russell, so it's in Mississippi. Tabernacle goes on the road. But if Tabernacle can beat Russell, they'll both be 5-1, and I believe they're the top 2 teams. And I don't think they have a playoff either. They just go 1 and 2 seed. So if that happens and that's the case, let's see. Yeah, Tabernacle's 5-1. And then you have Tuscaloosa Christian at 4-2. But if Tabernacle can beat Russell, they'll be tied, but Tabernacle will hold the head-to-head. And then Tabernacle the rest of the season, looking at their schedule, because it does tie into teams that we cover. I think they play Lighthouse Homeschool in a couple weeks. So if they can stay with the 1 loss in division, Tabernacle might go to NHSA.
Be interesting.
So it does tie into it. I know it's two teams that we don't cover this season, but it does play into the standings.
Interesting stuff. Speaking of that, NHSA 8-man football
Is that your way of saying
standings
cool story,
as
bro?
of 9/26/2021. Grace Baptist holds the number 1 seed at 7 wins, 0 losses. Likely they'll just hold on to that seed with the bye week. Evangel remains the number 2 seed at 6 wins and 1 loss. Russell Christian 5-0, they're the 3 seed. Freedom Cowboys are 5-1, 4 seed. 5 Lancaster Christian, especially with that close win against Franklin Christian. FCA is at number 6, with only being 2-2. Lighthouse Homeschooled 3-2. They are the 7 seed. Ezekiel follows right behind them at 4-2. 9 seed Christian Community at 4-9, staying up there in the top 10 rankings. And South Haven stays in the top 10 with a 6-1 record. And you look at the other teams. Evangel Montgomery 3-1. You're mentioning Tabernacle 5-1-12. Southern Prep at 4-1. They're the 13 seed, trying to knock on the door of that Florida tournament. Tuscaloosa Christian at 4-2. Out of the rest of the teams we cover, Providence Christian at the 15 seed, Tennessee Heat at 18, Ezel Harding at 23, Sacred Heart at 25. You also look down at Lighthouse Christian at 34, 35 is Franklin Classical. Interesting stuff for the top 10. Your thoughts?
And you can find these on Facebook, by the way. Best way to do it, just search National 8-Man Tournament, and it's the NHSA page. So in terms of changes, you mentioned Freedom getting bumped. No, Freedom moving up to the 4 seed.
Yep.
From 6. And then Franklin dropping below Lancaster. Lancaster stays at 5.
Even on a bye week, Freedom moves up 2 spots. Because they didn't have a game this past Friday. They moved up 2 spots.
Coach
That's
Collins killing 2 birds with 1 stone. He was at the classical game.
Mm-hmm.
Came and watched classical. They've got classical and Sacred Heart coming up.
He could have stayed home and watched our broadcast, but he decided to drive up anyway.
CCS drops with the loss, or with the win, rather.
Mm-hmm.
Lighthouse Homeschool moves up with a loss. Okay. Now, there was an explanation for it. Ezekiel moves from 9 to 8.
Let's see.
Montgomery might be a factor.
Yeah. So they reevaluate. So Freedom has played the tougher schedule, only losing to Evangel. Lancaster and Franklin Christian, they dropped 1 space. Freedom will still play Franklin Christian, so that matchup is going to have a huge factor into the rankings. And obviously FCA plays Grace. Lancaster, an easier schedule until the playoffs. Lighthouse Homeschool beat Ezekiel by 2, so unless they beat Evangel or play them better, they won't jump Lighthouse in terms of Ezekiel getting past the Lighthouse Homeschool Warriors. And Evangel Montgomery beat Tabernacle and could play Russell again in the playoffs. Those are the explanations we got.
I do wonder why CCS dropped with a win.
Maybe because of let's see how.
Providence was 11. They dropped to 15.
Let's see. Providence was at 11-15. Maybe it's because of how many points their defense allowed. Because even that's maybe. That's probably the best justification I can think of.
I would move CCS. Let's see. You could put CCS. I would have left them where they're at, honestly, and I would have left Lighthouse Homeschool there. Then Ezekiel. I mean, they won, but you could swap Lighthouse and Ezekiel, even though Lighthouse beat. No, leave Ezekiel. I would have left that where it was. I agree with moving Freedom up. Yep. And moving Lancaster and Franklin Christian down. And then South Haven was at 10. They're still at 10. So Tabernacle, I mentioned Tabernacle. They're 12. They're at 12. Russell at 3. So that's a big matchup coming up Friday night. Southern Prep sitting at 13 at 4-1. Most of the games were 11-man, but Cornerstone Christian Rainsville is also one to watch. They are 2-2 according to this. KC East out of Kansas City, Missouri. They're 4-1, and they are number 16. Mm-hmm. That's interesting. They moved from 22 to 16. So, yeah, top 10 could be interesting. I mentioned Tabernacle could win it, so you could have Grace, Evangel, Freedom, and Tabernacle. So this year last year you had 3 teams out of Alabama. CCS did not move. Yeah, CCS did move.
Getting some text there, but Brendan, your thoughts on what you see from the NHSA rankings?
Just everything looks about right from what I can tell. Everybody's in a good position to me. I feel like I can't complain on this one as previous times, but great job on this.
You think that FCA Grace?
I'm not
contest,
crazy, right? You're seeing the CCS moved.
They went from 10 to 9.
From the previous rankings.
No, South Haven was 10 last week.
No, last week it says right here. Christian
Last
Community
week was
10.
9-19. The standings on 9-19.
Well,
You have South Haven at 10. Spencer, you should have these too.
I'm pulling them up real quick just to.
Oh no, you are right.
South Haven was at 10. Both.
Yeah,
weeks.
Christian Community stayed at 9. South Haven was stayed at 10.
Okay, but CCS was 7 last week.
You talking about
On
September?
9-19.
I'm looking at the Facebook post right now. It says Christian Community 9.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay.
So yeah, South Haven was 10. Christian Community was 9. Ezekiel Academy stayed at 8. Lighthouse was still at 7. It was Freedom that moved up to 4, and Franklin Christian and Freedom flip-flopped spots 4 and 6.
Mm-hmm.
Lancaster stayed at 5, and the top 3 stayed the exact same. So that's what happened, was that they moved other players on that. They flip-flopped Freedom and Franklin Christian. That's what happened there. So, all right, well.
So the one with CCS at 7, that one's on Facebook?
Yes, from
Okay.
September 19th.
Okay, then I was looking at the one that was sent to me.
Yep, I'm looking at the latest on there. Good stuff from the NHSA. Excited to see how that's going to go. If
How awesome must it be to be them and Hank St. Dennis, the head guy, sitting back on a Friday night and being able to watch us. I put us at 1, obviously. And then you have, let's see, who else was doing a broadcast? Ezel Harding was doing a broadcast.
didn't Ezekiel
FCA
have
had
something?
a broadcast? Ezekiel had a broadcast, and Evangel. So we're being able to watch us, Ezekiel,
Lancaster
and then the other
game.
3.
Yep.
I don't know where you would rank them at 3, 4, 5, but I would put us in Evangel.
I don't know if that's our job.
too.
That's up to the viewing audience. Which ones do you mute the least is the question. I think that's
If
a
it were
great
me,
space.
probably all of them. I'd mute all of them.
That's a great measuring stick on that. All right.
Spence?
Yeah. What's up?
Wait, where? Okay. So the one on Facebook has, CCS at 9. Okay.
This guy doubting me. This guy doubting me as usual.
Always.
All right. Well, thanks again to Hank St. Dennis on getting us those national rankings and getting that to the public as well. But updating those always on Sunday, about at the time of the show or just right before the show, getting those updated. And with that, Week 7 is officially in the books.
Let's get to the last segment of our 2-hour show.
I mean, quality content.
Swanee wrong about winning the championship.
Oh yeah, someone thinks you're wrong about Swanee winning it. But
who
yeah.
determines who you cover and who you don't?
Oh, we covered that in the first show of the season. Go to Extreme Talk.
Just to recap. Basically, it's kind of managing workload with the personnel we have and how much we can travel because we want to get to everyone once. That's not going to happen this year, but hopefully if we can get more people or get a designated person in Alabama or a crew in Alabama just to cover Alabama 8-man.
Yep.
There you go.
And what happens if Franklin Christian beats Grace? Is it a 3-way tie? So depends, because right now Franklin Christian is at 1-1. Depends on their matchup against Providence Christian. If FCA were to win out, they would be 3-1. Grace Baptist would be 3-1. That would be at head-to-head. Depends on what Lancaster does, because they are 2-1. Assuming that their matchup against Zion is in division, it would be Grace would beat FCA. FCA would lose to Lancaster. So it would be head-to-head there. So I think it would be Grace 1, Lancaster 2, and FCA 3, even if that's the case, if they're 3-1, because it goes by head-to-head. Because both Lancaster and Grace, well, if FCA beats, it would be FCA beat Grace, Grace beat Lancaster. Could be a 3-way coin toss for whoever gets the home field advantage. Yeah, instead of doing point differential like the ACSC does.
It makes my head hurt.
Yep. Why do you think I do this instead of you? There's a reason. All right, well, Week 7 is in the books. Time to go to Week 8. Follow along on your helmet schedules from top to bottom.
Our show puts a pin in Week 7. Boom. Week 7's over.
Can you believe that we're about to be in October? We're a few days out from October 2021. I remember
we've done 7 weekends of games.
Seems
and shows.
Like yesterday, you and I were on that drive back from the All-American game at the start of 2020. It seems kind of like yesterday that happened. How things kind of our days run together now, as it seems.
It does with the lack of sleep I've gotten.
You're telling me. October 1st, week 8, the start of October, and last weekend was the official first weekend of the Boys of Fall for 2021. Second weekend of the Boys of Fall. All right, helmet schedules, top to bottom. Oh gosh, you're gonna start making one of our viewers cry on that. Because there's
fighting back them butterflies.
Once he starts
call
hearing
it in the air, yes sir. We want.
He's never heard the song. I sent it to him.
You've never heard the Boys of Fall?
No, he had not. No,
still haven't listened to it.
I sent you the link
Yeah,
so you can listen to it. But like he mentioned it leading up to like I mentioned the Boys of Fall. I think it was either on air or as we're warming up for Thursday night's game.
I think it was both.
It was something like that, and Thursday night, and he was like, he didn't know. I was like, you know what I'm referencing, right? Boys of Fall song. He's like, never heard of it. So I was like, all right,
I
here you
also
go.
need to play that 10 out of 10 for y'all.
Yes.
Post show.
Yes, post show. All right. Evangel travels to Montgomery to collide with the Ezekiel Academy Knights in a matchup that Ezekiel has to win this game to give themselves a chance to get into the postseason. Their defense has to step up in a solid way. And for Evangel, they can lock the number 1 seed if they get this victory against the Evangel. I'm getting to you in a second. Come on
It
now.
has nothing to do with predictions.
Here we go.
Well, I mean, it kind of does. I would like to update, Spencer, with your permission. I would like to update everyone.
Since when have you needed my permission? You said you were
know.
going to cut me
That's
off
fair.
the entire
That's fair.
show.
Rules don't apply, apparently.
Permission.
Rules don't apply,
Permission.
apparently. Rules don't apply, apparently. So, I do want to update everyone. My preseason predictions in the little pick'em challenge that's going on.
I'm surprised he wants to talk about this.
Hey, I will face the music. I was wrong on some teams. CCS, I'm 2 games off. Evangel, I'm dead on. 5-1, 5-1. Ezekiel, I'm 1 game off. Esau Harding, I'm 3 games off. I struggled. Freedom, I'm dead on. 5-1. Classical, I am 3 games off. Yeah, 3 games off. 2 games off, rather. 2 games off. Grace, I missed bad. I missed bad. Right now, I had them at 3 and 4.
Oh, you poor soul.
Lancaster, I'm 2 games off. Lighthouse, I'm 4 games off. I had them at 5-1 at this point. They're 1 and 5. Lighthouse Homeschool, I'm dead on, 3 and 2. Providence, I'm 2 games off. Sacred Heart, I'm dead on, 3 and 2. Is it 3 and 2?
Something like that.
No. Yeah. I mean, I didn't really. They played Delta Academy last week. I didn't predict that game.
Because we didn't know.
To my knowledge, 3 and 2, 3 and 2. South Haven, I am 4 games off. I had them at 2 and 5 at this point.
Giving them bulletin board material in the Patriots locker room.
Southern Prep, I am 3 and 1. I had them picked at 3 and 1. They're 4 and 1. So I would have had them at 4 and 1. Tennessee Heat, I'm 3 games off. TSD, I'm 3 games off. And Zion, I'm actually dead on. I had Zion at 1 and 5.
And they got one more game in the regular season up until the Division II playoffs. So you got.
So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 teams I'm dead on, and a handful of teams, or 5 teams that I'm dead on, and a handful of teams that I'm a game or 2 off.
What's the pick'em challenge?
I don't know,
right now?
and I'm not keeping up with this. Not happening.
I'm sure we'll get an
I
update
need
in the
my
comments on that.
sanity. I know.
Okay. All right. Prediction time. Evangel, Ezekiel. Ezekiel has to win to give themselves a chance to get into the state championship. Evangel needs to win to clinch the number 1 seed and prevent the chance of point differential being a factor in there. Tim Smith is out with a vengeance. Lost to Grace Baptist
Oh,
since
wait,
then.
you mean their tiebreaker is point differential?
Yes, it is.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Sounds like a legitimate conference.
Sounds like a legitimate tiebreaker. All right. All right. Tim Smith versus Hunter Wilson. Eli Whitfield versus. I'm so sorry. I'm slipping on the quarterback's name for Ezekiel. I apologize.
Spencer.
I've slept.
I'm
Leach.
slipping on it too. Leach. That's what it is.
Leach.
Peyton Leach.
Peyton Leach. Eli Whitfield versus Peyton Leach.
Look at the new guy
Receiving
coming
course.
through.
Hey, man.
So
I remember talent.
yeah.
Oh,
Does.
boy.
All right,
Wow.
James. Ezekiel, Evangel,
fired.
rematch of the national championship in Montgomery.
And
Who's taking the dub?
It's going to be the same as the national championship. Run it back. Evangel with the win.
Ooh.
Mm.
All right. He's got
I'm gonna doubt that. Ezekiel Academy.
Ooh.
Let's get it.
All right.
You only have one moment, one opportunity, boys. You got it.
One chance. One chance to get it all right. All right, the Freedom Cowboys in Huntsville to host the Sacred Heart of Jesus High School Knights, a matchup between West Tennessee and Central Alabama. Consider
North
Huntsville
Alabama.
Central? North Alabama.
Okay, Tennessee is long ways, so you have West, Middle, South.
I
West,
know
Middle,
geography.
East.
I'm just saying in terms of the
Alabama
region.
is long ways, so you go
There we
North,
go.
Central, South.
I know how geography works. I'm just
There's a
wondering
school
how
called
people
South
would.
Alabama. There's no South Tennessee. There's East Tennessee, Spencer. There's a North Alabama. There's no North Tennessee.
If anybody wonders that this happens on a daily, it does.
It does. I'll figure too.
Freedom, Sacred Heart, Cowboys Knights. Who you got, James?
Freedom. 100%. I had to find it. I've got all these notes on here.
I thought he was about to.
Freedom's going to handle business, especially being at home.
Oh, I thought he was going to go Sacred Heart for a moment. I was about to be like, really?
So I'm guessing that solidifies your pick.
Ride them Cowboys.
Riding the Cowboys. All right. Franklin Classical School has another home game at Jim Warren Park. They have their final divisional matchup of the year, which essentially will determine who is number 1 and number 2 seed in Division II with the Lighthouse Christian School Lions. Coach Bell riding off of the high of his first win as a head coach. Franklin Classical looking for their first win of 2021. And as you mentioned several times on the broadcast, James, and throughout the last few weeks, Classical, this may be their last chance to get their first victory of 2021. So will Coach Austin get it done on Friday night, or will Coach Bell go 2-0 out of 2 weeks?
These are two of my favorite coaches to talk to and cover and interact with. Super hospitable, easy to work with, just great coaches. They do have the chance to get their first win of the season on Friday night, and it ain't going to happen. Lighthouse with their second win of the season. Sean Bell going to get his second dub.
Absolutely. The high is definitely in there. Lighthouse, not only for a coach, but also it's the players. Let's go, Lighthouse.
All right, both of you guys going on Lighthouse in this one. As mentioned, Grace Baptist has a bye week. We continue on the helmet schedule.
Oh, they're winning that one, too.
Yeah. Grace winning the bye week, yeah.
8-0.
Hopefully Coach Ateka will catch our broadcast on Friday. Maybe that, or they'll have a scrimmage of some port.
Apparently, in games involving one Tennessee team, so Alabama.
Looking at your records, yeah. James is 18
Southern,
and 23, 13 games back.
Yeah, I know about Martin Methodist and UT Southern. I'm 13 games back, 18 and 23. But then if you include Alabama, hold on a second. If you include Alabama,
because I think the Jet only predicts Tennessee teams.
Only does Tennessee or games involving a team from Tennessee.
Something like that.
So if you include Evangel. I am 5-1. Ezekiel, let's see.
I'm looking at my fantasy team right now. I'm winning by 50 points. Granted, my opponent still has Aaron Rodgers.
I'll figure it out later. I ain't got time on the show.
Still got Rodgers, Devontae Adams, and Debo Samuel
I have
playing
Aaron
on
Rodgers
Sunday
too.
night. So.
Anyways,
I don't know how you look.
Okay, so
Yeah, I don't know either.
What's the next game we're going to predict?
Yeah, as he goes on that rabbit trail. All right, we continue on. Grace is going to win the bye week. Lancaster Christian will host Zion Christian in their final divisional matchup of the year as Coach Bragg and company, after the very close win against Franklin Christian, look to close out their 2021 season with a 3-1 in division record. And Zion Christian looking for just their second win in 8-man football history, and it's going to be a tough matchup for Coach Jordan to do, especially in Smyrna. So, James, who's coming out of this one?
Well, first off, it's sad when your kicker scores the most points on your fantasy team. I have Aaron Rodgers left. That's my last hope. I'm down by 40, I think. Yeah, down by 42. Man. Okay, so.
I can't wait to play you, James. It's going to be such an easy game.
Shut your mouth. Shut your mouth. By the way, Lancaster's not going to struggle. Lancaster with the win.
All right, easy stuff there. What you got, Brendan?
Oh, yeah, definitely Lancaster's going to take that win if they protect their quarterback.
If they protect Deuce Bragg. All right. And we
If he plays.
if he plays, there's a potential we saw he could be dealing with some injuries. They might.
I wonder why.
I mean, granted, they do have a bye week coming up after their Zion game. You see this, Brendan?
Oh no, yeah, I see it. You also got to run, James. You can't just sit there in the pocket. You got to run.
Lancaster Christian does have a bye week after their game with Zion Christian, so maybe they rest Deuce Bragg for the next 2 weeks. Who knows? Lighthouse Homeschool Warriors have a bye week. Now Providence Christian travels to collide with Franklin Christian in what we believe, because of how the tiebreakers work and all that, what we believe will be for that third seed in the TSIAA South playoff bracket. Franklin Christian, after that tough loss, 2 points in Smyrna, they're going to be out with a vengeance. Of course, LeBron Ferguson sitting at 1-2 right now in division. They want to play for a state championship. Coach Ferguson wants to build off of the momentum they had, even with that close loss to Christian Community. Providence Christian looking very poised for a victory against FCA. But, James, you're the expert on this and all the other predictions and such. Who you got winning Providence Christian FCA?
Providence Christian.
Takes the W on
with
that.
The dub.
I'm going to go FCA.
Oh, you taking that one.
I think
go to the dark side.
I think what happened with Lancaster with them, that was a mistake. It shouldn't have happened.
All right. We'll see if
Go
Providence.
to the dark side.
Yeah, we'll see if Providence can get the job done. Southern Prep has it's listed as 8-man homecoming.
Your father.
Listed as 8-man homecoming as Southern Prep hosts Lafayette out of Georgia. Homecoming, assuming it's an 8-man game. James,
you shall be known.
James, who you got?
As Darth Vader.
Southern Prep.
Who you got, Brendan?
Southern Prep.
All right, just both of you taking Southern Prep on that. Tennessee Heat has a actually no, it's not a bye week. They've got their game this week against James. Who was it again? The Heat will be facing this Friday.
The Nighthawks. Spencer.
Nighthawks. Who you got in that one?
Heat. 100%.
Tennessee Heat, 100%.
100%.
I'll go with Nighthawks.
Oh,
Tennessee have not impressed me.
Oh.
The Nighthawks have played 2 games and gotten smacked in both of them.
Hey, you can get smacked. Don't mean, hey, Tennessee Heat can be the team they smack back.
All
Okay.
All right.
It could be possible. Tennessee School for the Deaf has 2 bye weeks of canceling their out-of-state opponents. All right, and that means for the first time in 7 weeks straight, we don't have a doubleheader. We have 1 game, and the Kingdom.com Extreme.
Hallelujah.
The Kingdom.com Extreme Game of the Week is. Please think. That's what I was trying to build up. So violent on the drums. We will be in.
There goes Sling.
There goes Sling.
So
That sums up our season. Excitement, and then.
You know,
Way to be on point.
it's like, wait.
I rearranged.
That was perfect. It didn't fall. That's perfect.
We will be in White House, Tennessee. The Colts host Ezel Harding for a divisional matchup that has so much significance to it. You think about all the factors involved, including Ezel Harding fighting for their playoff lives, Christian Community fighting for the right to be the number 1 seed after they were forced to be the number 2 seed last year. You also think about how Ezel Harding still has no clue if it's a forfeit or not, credited to them or against them with Franklin Classical. So many other factors involved. It should be an intense game. It should be a close one. The last time Ezel Harding went to May Flanders Field, James, it was not pretty for the Colts. It was that shutout loss, not a shutout loss, essentially a blowout loss by Ezel Harding on their road to the state championship. And Ezel Harding got it done. All right, but James, it's time for your prediction of who you think is going to win between Coach Flanders, Coach McGee, as well as the Stars under Ezel Harding. Christian
You mean
Community.
like young guys like Melvin Cousins versus Caden Poulin?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if you can guess my prediction.
And then Will Adams versus their other person there. CCS bias for
Taking
James
the Colts.
Shannon. CCS bias for James Shannon this week, as some will accuse him of. All right.
100%.
All right,
accusal.
Brendan, who you got?
Yeah, I'm accused of CCS bias, but I've got him picked at 3-5 on the season. Okay. All right. Okay, Boomer.
All right, Brendan, who you got?
I'm going to go with the Colts as well. It's going to be tough beating them at the
Oh,
house.
take Ezel Harding. Take Ezel Harding.
Why should I take Ezel Harding? I already picked the Colts before we even talked about
You like
this.
Melvin Cousins.
I mean, yeah, but
You like Josh Murdoch.
I
you like
Will
Isaiah
Adams.
Fisher?
I like Will Adams better.
Do you think the Ezel Harding defense is going to put a stop to Will Adams?
I can answer. Can I answer?
Go
Can I
ahead,
answer?
answer.
No.
Because I know you
No,
predicted CCS.
I don't
but
think they will, but I don't think CCS will shut down Ezel Harding's passing game.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I think we could have an overtime game Friday. I'm going to hop on the
and
train of predicting overtime games. Friday we'll have an overtime
I
game.
know we are about to get to our shout-out sections, but you guys do not know this, so announcement here. Ronnie Perkins will be the white cap on Friday. He'll be making his return after his hip surgery and everything involved. So excited to catch up again with Ronnie Perkins and see him as white cap for what will be a very intense game in a battle for number 1 seed in the North. To get a seed in the North for Ezel Harding, number 1 seed for the Colts, and we're excited to be there in White House, Tennessee. All right, James, time for the shout-out portion. You want me to have Brendan go first before you start going off?
Yeah, let Brendan go.
All right, Brendan, you got any shout-outs from this past weekend?
Love you too, Beauty Queen wannabe.
What?
On that YouTube stream.
Okay.
It's Monica. It's
Hi,
his
Monica.
wife. Yeah. Hope Monica's enjoying the show. Sorry we have
What's
your iPad
so what's
under
your shout-outs?
hostage.
Just Tom Brady for bringing me back into the game. Thank you, Tom. You know, as the GOAT, always believe in you, brother.
We are about to go over 2 hours on this show because my shout-out will take a hot minute.
Yeah, that's fine.
Speaketh, brother.
Me.
We already
Okay.
are over 2 hours, but yeah.
I would like to give a shout-out to PA announcers who do their job, do it correctly, do it well, and are non-biased despite being from the home team. I'm going to speak on this because I've done PA announcing at national championship games, at All-American games, okay? So here you go. Carry by Adams. Will Adams takes the ball 7 yards. And I'm not singling out CCS. Carry by Will Adams for 7 yards. He's tackled at the 35. Tackled by Fisher. We'll say Cousins, who's number 10, because I remember his name. It's the
Alvin Cousins.
yeah. So and that makes it 3rd down. Okay. Here's your job, PA announcer. You called the last play. Now you sit here. And you sit here. Just if you don't have to make any announcements for the concession stand or the school or sponsors or something, sit here, watch the play, watch the play, watch the play. Okay. Carry by number 7, Adams, down to the 35-yard line, tackled by number 10, Cousins. That'll bring up a Colts 3rd down. Boom, done. That's your job. Not play-by-play, not speculation on officials' calls and what you interpret the rules to be, not bias for your team. Call it down the middle. Call it right. Don't get sidetracked. We have seen some terrible PA announcers this year. Just awful. There's been some good ones. And I'm not going to single out teams. I'm not going to single out schools and PA announcers. We have seen, I would say, out of the 14 games we've done, I would say 80% of them are PA announcers that I look at them and I go, how did you get this role? And how are you still here? Shout out to you PA announcers who do a good job and do your job well.
They're only volunteers, James. Figure I'd give you guys some love. Someone's got to be a pig.
Well, no, it plays in well because of another comment we got about someone being a volunteer and not getting paid for their job. And that
Come on,
excuses
man.
a completely dumpster fire job of doing, okay.
Yeah,
Anyways.
you're that person I don't stand up for, though. You're a volunteer. You don't get paid, obviously.
Oh. Yeah. So, I mean, if you're a PA guy, come on. Don't be biased. Don't do that. Here's another one. Say the opponent. Get an accurate roster for your opponent. Say their name. Say their number.
Say their name. Say their name.
Seriously, though. Jeez, it's so annoying to just broadcast a game because you have to listen to the PA guy the whole game.
Noise
Don't
isolation
be
only
super.
goes so far.
Don't be super loud. Turn down a little bit. You're on an amplified system. People can hear you.
If I can hear you over these headsets, we have a problem.
If I can't hear him making the call and I'm doing color, that's an issue.
Thank you.
Don't sign up for a position if you are not able to fulfill it to the best of your
Jeez.
ability. Otherwise, it is
Great. Now I'm all worked up.
You were already going to be worked up
I
on
know.
this, but
I know.
don't sign up for a position if you cannot fulfill it to the best of your ability. Otherwise, it gives people the impression that you just are on a power trip and want to hold power. You just want to be in control for your own personal interests, and if you've
Or
got
the interest of those you love and care about.
Yeah. If payment is an issue and you focus on the things that pay you first over other volunteer positions, resign because if you're focused on what's paying you first, focus on that instead of just focusing on those things. And shout out to those who have good time management. Those are my shout outs for the week.
Well, maybe we won't go over 2 hours. It's
We
right
are-
at 6 o'clock.
No, we are over 2 hours.
We started at 4.
Yeah. At
The
least in
stream
terms of
started
times.
at 4:55. Spencer.
Yeah. I remember when we used to have to compress everything into an hour show.
I know,
Now
and
it's
then we
just-
said, oh man, it's 6:01. And then we said, you know what? We're going to give ourselves time, and we're going to do a 2-hour show, and people will watch and listen to a 2-hour show. And y'all are awesome.
absolutely.
Kudos to y'all. Let's
Yeah.
go.
Oh yeah,
Let's go.
absolutely.
And shout out to everyone who watches and listens to the show after the fact.
Yeah.
Because our numbers have been fantastic
Oh,
in
yeah.
terms of people.
Also, if you haven't been watching the games just in general, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I know you
honestly,
ain't got
we'll
much to
probably
do.
add another game.
If we're being realistic here, yeah, they're probably at another game.
Because we
and
make the
such,
games private. So
You got a smartphone. Pull it out. Watch us.
but watch it. It's like if you're in an NFL stadium and watching Red Zone at the same time as watching the games. Just
who
catch
does
that.
that? You're at a game.
I've done it a
I've
few
done
times.
it.
I do.
I am guilty of it.
I catch it. Not intently, but like in between breaks, I'll catch
Look,
Red
man,
Zone.
I've been
I
in
got another
fantasy.
shout out.
Okay.
I got another shout out. I got another shout out.
What you got?
The people checking our show out.
Oh yeah.
Last week we're sitting at 228 total views, 269 the week before, 201 the week before, 286, 279, 327, 382. Y'all are crushing it this season.
Yeah.
Absolutely just smacking it around.
Oh.
Shout out to y'all.
Shout out to all the great viewers and everything.
We got
And-
50 viewers so far already today.
Oh yeah, 50 views, fantastic.
Oh, and
There we go.
again, I know I said this yesterday or today, or no, not yesterday. Sorry, we weren't here. Friday or Thursday, I said any seniors that are looking for any type of journalism experience.
Hit us up.
Mm-hmm.
I know we're controversial. Might not be the
He's not
ideal.
controversial. It's not controversial at all.
Still
They're
put in some
being
media
real.
work. Yeah. There's
I'll Venmo you later.
there's controversy. There's controversy, and then there's the facts. Again, we tell you what to think about, not what to think. All right, well, that's going to wrap it up for Extreme Talk, presented by GracePointe Healthcare, fueled by Fairlife Core Power Protein, financially supported in part by First Horizon, as well as sponsored by Crumble Cookie and Iceberg Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling.
Shout out to everyone who's voted on Crumble Cookie on the
For-
Crumble Cookie Play of the Week.
For James Shannon, for Brendan Daniel, for Monica Shannon, for Audrey Green from afar, for Jerry Jr., all the hardworking men and women that make this successful, and Spencer Thompson saying thanks for tuning in to Extreme Talk. We'll see you Friday for CCS and Ezel Harding.
See ya!